Around the world, large cities have many different railway lines that bring you from the outskirts into the city center. But sometimes these lines don't connect with each other. There's a gap, and planners have to work to fill it. Connecting lines are built, and while these are often fairly short, they are expensive and take a long time to construct. Nevertheless, they are such a massive improvement in connectivity that it becomes hard to imagine a city without it. A recent popular example is the Elizabeth line in London. Upon its opening in 2022, suburban lines on opposite sides of the city were connected by a new tunnel underneath the city center. But London is not the only place where this has happened. In fact, there are many examples from around the world where similar projects opened years, even decades earlier. In today's video, we are taking a look at Philadelphia in the United States, and how a short tunnel, the Center City Commuter Connector, took two large train systems and turned them into one. Welcome to a new episode of Minding the Gap. Hey everybody, welcome to a brand new Trains Are Awesome video. I'm Tom and I'm standing right here in the beautiful main hall of Philadelphia's 30th Street Station. Now, if you're going to take Amtrak or New Jersey Transit's Atlantic City line, you'll use platforms that are downstairs in kind of a tunnel. But if you want to take SEPTA Regional Rail, like we're going to do today, you have to go upstairs. Let me show you. When 30th Street Station opened in 1933, it was the most modern, state-of-the-art building you could imagine. It had pneumatic tubes, an intercom, hospital rooms, even a landing strip for planes on the roof, and of course, lots of tracks for trains. That wasn't too bad of a walk. We're already at the SEPTA gates. I have to purchase a pass today. I'm going to be taking a lot of transit, so I'm going for the $13 Anywhere Flex Pass. The SEPTA one-day Flex Pass let me take 10 rides of any distance on regional rail or local transit. The regional rail platforms upstairs serve every single SEPTA regional rail line. You can reach every station on the system from these platforms. Alright, so this is the regional rail floor here at 30th Street Station. There's 6 tracks. Beautiful, light, open space. Is it me, or is this a very good looking station for US standards? So while 30th Street Station has traditionally been the inner city rail station, regional trains have traditionally continued to Suburban Station in Center City, Philadelphia. So that's what we're going to do right now. Let's get on a train to visit Suburban Station. After waiting for a few minutes, our train shows up. This is a Silverliner 4 train built in the 1970s. Almost immediately after departure, we cross the Schuylkill River and descend into a tunnel underneath Center City, Philadelphia. Today, these tracks are part of the SEPTA system, but they used to belong to the Pennsylvania Railroad. The Pennsylvania Railroad was one of the most famous and important railways in American history. From Philly, you could take one of their trains to New York, DC, Pittsburgh, and points beyond. And starting in 1881, trains left from the Broad Street Station, a beautiful building located right across from City Hall. Broad Street was so busy that by the turn of the century, it was seeing close to 600 departures a day, both long distance and commuter services. But there were a few problems. First, long distance through trains between New York and DC had to enter Philadelphia from the west, chug along into Broad Street, then turn around, go back to West Philly, and finally continue to their destination. Furthermore, the hundreds of daily commuter trains were taking up precious time and space by having to turn their steam locomotives around from one end to the other. To solve the second problem, the PennC began to electrify their network, so the commuter trains could use bidirectional electric trains. But for the first problem, they had a more ambitious plan. two new stations would be built: 30th Street Station at the site of their West Philadelphia station, and a new Suburban Station at the site of Broad Street. Electric trains meant that long-distance trains could now use a north-south tunnel at 30th Street, drastically saving time. Suburban trains would travel east-west, dive underground, and terminate at Suburban Station. So Suburban Station opened in 1930. Interestingly, it coexisted with the old Broad Street Station until the 1950s. Outside on the Art Deco facade, you can still see the inscription of the Pennsylvania Railroad. Today, it once again serves as a station on every single SEPTA line. So now I'm standing in front of Suburban Station. Starting in 1933, this was the terminal for regional trains operated by the Pennsylvania Railroad, and it continues to be used by SEPTA today. One line terminates here, and that's the Kenwood line. On my recent trip to Philly, I rode the Kenwood line, so be sure to subscribe to Trains Are Awesome so you don't miss that trip report. But if only the Kenwood line terminates at Suburban Station, where do the other lines go? Well, buckle up because there is more to the story. Let me introduce you to the Reading Company. The Reading Company was a fierce competitor with the Pennsylvania Railroad. They too operated a vast network of commuter services into the Philadelphia suburbs, which was also eventually electrified. And on the long-distance front, they partnered with railroads like the Central Railroad of New Jersey, the Lehigh Valley Railroad, and the Baltimore and Ohio to run long-distance trains to New York, Washington, Buffalo, and Toronto. Reading Company trains left from the Reading Terminal at Market and 12th Streets. In the 1960s, both the Pennsylvania and Reading railroads struggled to maintain suburban services. Regional governments began funding the trains, eventually forming the Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority, or SEPTA for short, in 1965. While SEPTA initially paid the companies to run the trains, in 1983 they took over operations altogether. But now there was another problem. SEPTA had two completely separate but compatible commuter rail systems. City planners had a solution: the Center City Commuter Connection. Construction started in 1978 and the project opened in 1984. The Reading lines were moved underground to a new underground station called Market East. Meanwhile, a short 4-track tunnel would be built from Suburban to Market East, allowing through running between the former Pennsylvania Railroad lines and the former Reading Company lines. And that is the tunnel that we are currently running through. So now we've come down to the concourse level here at Jefferson Station. It's very nice. It's clean. It's 40 years old, but it looks relatively modern. So this station opened in 1984 when the connecting tunnel was inaugurated. It used to be called Market East, but the nearby hospital basically bought the naming rights. Though Market East/Jefferson Station opened in the 80s, the century-older Reading Terminal still exists. So now I'm standing in front of the Reading Terminal Market. Now, many people have told me that this is the best food market in the entire United States. So let's just go inside, check it out, and then I'll explain why I'm seemingly interrupting this train video with talk about a food hall. The Reading Terminal Market was incorporated into the ground floor of the station in the 1880s as part of an agreement that would let the Reading Company build their station on the site of an old market. The market has outlasted the station, though it's quite gentrified from what it once was. I wonder what they serve here. So this is like the market entrance to Jefferson Station. It's really cool. There's murals kind of celebrating the history of this spot. So the market as well as the trains. The massive train shed of Reading Terminal, on the other hand, was converted into a convention center, which is pretty cool. Let's go back down to Jefferson train station. I want one of these SEPTA rugs for my house, but I doubt Lindsay would let me. So I just took a train through the Center City Commuter connection through the tunnel. Now here's the thing, like the infrastructure part feels very modern. Sure, it's 40 years old, but I mean, look at this. It's a beautiful, reasonably modern station. They've got the fare gates, the LED destination signs, all of that. But then the train experience itself still feels very old-fashioned. Doesn't help that I was on one of those really old Silverliner 4s, but like we were traveling super slowly through the tunnel. Not all the doors on the train opened. And in terms of frequency, I mean, it helps that all the lines come through here, but even then, it's no Elizabeth line. It's not that frequent. But I've noticed subconsciously that, like, because of the electrification and just kind of this background knowledge of this line, I'm mentally comparing it a lot more to transit in Europe than I am to other commuter rail systems here in the United States. Basically, what I'm saying is take everything you hear from a train YouTuber with a grain of salt and the right perspective. We'll now get on another SEPTA Regional Rail train, this time over the tracks of the former Reading Company. Notice that SEPTA calls this system Regional Rail. The Center City Commuter connection has allowed trains to travel from one end of the system to the other without terminating downtown. Most trains, with a few exceptions, will originate somewhere on the former Pennsylvania system, travel through Center City, and then end somewhere on the former Reading system, and vice versa. Trains on all lines run all day, not just during rush hours. This, plus their regional nature, plus the fact that it's all electrified, it really makes SEPTA Regional Rail one of the best suburban railway systems in the United States. Sure, there's lots of room for improvement, but many US commuter rails would do well to look at SEPTA and learn from them all the same. After Temple University Station, we've left the Center City part of the system, but let's stay on our train a little longer. Here in North Philadelphia, we pass over the Northeast Corridor and some of the SEPTA lines that were formerly part of the Pennsylvania Railroad. We then reach a junction here on the Reading system as well, where several different lines branch off. As you can see, it's kind of pointless to refer to the directions as east or west, north or south, since they kind of cross all over each other. Really, the best way to talk about the lines is to just say on the former Pennsylvania system or on the former Reading system. We stop at Wayne Junction, which used to be the northern terminus of the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad here in Philadelphia. Trains like the Royal Blue and the Capital Limited from Chicago and Washington, D.C. would change here to Reading Railroad tracks and continue up to Jersey City. Today, it's just a regional rail stop. Made it to Fern Rock Transportation Center. You know, in a lot of ways, this Center City Commuter connection is a great thing. Not only does it like reduce the need to turn trains around downtown, you know, it offers through running, so it really strengthens that regional nature of the system. and it increases frequency in the center city section. Here are a few examples of other systems that might benefit from something like this. When Metrolink in Los Angeles completes the new bridge over the highway at Union Station, they'll be able to easily run through trains from one end of the system to the other. Similarly, if the track south of Washington Union Station were electrified, MARC and VRE could combine to form a Capital Region Express system between Maryland and Northern Virginia. More on that in a video coming very soon. But perhaps the best place to implement something like this would be Chicago. Chicago's metro network is already extensive and sprawling, just like Philly's, but all trains terminate downtown at 4 different stations. An obvious first step would be to use the through-running tracks at Union Station to combine the northern and southern services there, but I've always thought about what a game changer it would be if the underground tracks at Millennium Station were extended through the city to connect with Clybourne Station. This Elizabeth line of Chicago would be massively expensive, but imagine being able to take a train from Hyde Park to Evanston, or straight from Indiana to Wisconsin, really. Sometimes I wish we still had the vision of urban planners of the last century. The ones who built trains, not the ones who built highways, of course. And then there's Boston. No further comment. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to Trains Are Awesome. There will be more content from Philadelphia, more installments of the Minding the Gap series, more of everything. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.